For as long as I can remember, my father always told me, son, when choosing a career, you need to be good at what you do, love what you do, and have a market for what you do. And these words have haunted me for a very long time now. You see, teenagers for a very long time have dealt with lifelong decisions, as all age groups do. However, I'm specifically focusing on the decisions we're obliged and pressured to make while so young. The so important decisions I'm talking about are the career and study choices we make while going through our teens. The choices that will cost us absurd amounts of money, energy, work, and time. Amounts that we will probably never be able to get back. According to various studies, it has been concluded that the human brain is not yet fully developed until the age of 25. Until then, a teenage brain processes information with the amygdala, the part of the brain which is mostly responsible for emotion. Whilst in adults, they process this information with the prefrontal cortex, which in teens is still being developed. I'm not saying that adults know best, because they don't. But I'm trying to emphasize the fact that if we stop and wonder for a minute or two, are these teens really ready to make this choice? We're putting what a person will study for the next 4, 5, say maybe even 8 years, and bigger than that, what they will most probably work with for 30, maybe 40, even 50 years in the hands of people who A, think with their emotionally biased, undeveloped brains, B, have little to no experience in such topic, and C, don't pay the bills for college. And well, who can blame us for making the wrong choice? Who can blame us for not making a choice at all? Should someone else make this decision for us? Should it be postponed to a later age? Are we ever ready to make this choice? Is the whole educational system wrong? Well, maybe it is, but who am I to judge? I have a teenage brain. And all of this drama did not start this year, decade, or even century. It goes way back. However, it has changed, quite dramatically, I'd say. You see, not so long ago, if you were to choose a career or a field of study, you would have way fewer options. And in those options, they will be pretty much straightforward and very narrowed down. I'm not saying that it was easy. It never was. After all, it is a huge decision. However, it was easier. So I'm sure all of you, if not all, most have either gone through your teens or are going through it right now. And I'm sure many of you have dealt with this dilemma before. Therefore, I'd like to pose you a few questions. So if you could just please raise your hands if when going through your teens around 15, 16, say 17 years old, you had an idea, a direction of what you wanted to study. Okay, great. That's a lot of hands. So you can lower your hands. And now raise your hands, please, again. If maybe a month later, a few months, maybe even a year into college, you changed your course, went to a different field of study, just did something else. Okay, I see a few hands who changed their minds. Fair. Now, the final question. I'd like you to raise your hands if later, maybe years later into your life, you just realized and you just wished you had gone into a completely different field of study, pursued a completely different career. Wow, a lot of regrets. So we have a problem here. If so many people have a hard time making these decisions and so many regrets, maybe it is not just a coincidence. Maybe we have a real issue here. Because it always has been an immense pressure to try to choose your career and field of study being so young. For me, trying to cope with these three conditions, well, I haven't managed it yet, and I hope I will. And if this was already a problem 30 years ago, why haven't we done anything about it? Why are teens still having the same issue over and over again? And the problem is, it is just getting harder. By time passes, it is getting tougher and tougher to make this decision, generation after generation. Research done by All About Careers surveys 37,000 undergraduates and 1,500 schools. And in those students surveyed, 52% of them agreed or strongly agreed with this statement, I have no idea what I want to do with my career. That is over half of the students surveyed. That is over half of the students lost, confused, and off track of what they want to pursue in their lives. And you see, nowadays, we have so stupidly specific jobs and the most diverse fields of study in the past we would have never even dreamt of. I'm talking about fields of study like bagpiping major or fermentation sciences, between other weird and rather curious fields of study. And of course, as all you might know, technology plays a huge part in this. Technology has opened so many doors for us, and is opening by the day even more. Jobs specialization, creating new jobs, new areas of study, as well as extinguishing some old ones. For example, computers, who are actual people who did computational thinkings and mathematical computations before, actual computers were invented. Or say lamp lighters, who were people who lit lamps back when they were oil fueled. And you see, all of this, we have to choose this extremely hard choice whilst keeping in mind that this same teenager struggling over and over to find what they will study and what is their passion, whilst remembering the fact that in a few years' time, this same teenager will most probably be a completely different person with different tastes, different preferences, probably wasted time on subjects they never intended to study, and having a more developed brain, they would probably opt for different options. And of course, unfortunately, that's not all. With all of this we have to consider, we still have the money factor. Is there a prosperous market for it? Well, one of the things most heard by adults from teenagers, if not every adult says, I'm sure every teenager here in this audience has heard it, the famous phrase of follow your passion. But should we completely disregard money? Can we just completely ignore it and just do what we love and what we think we're good at? Well, I don't think so. But if so many adults, if not all adults, say that with their experience, there must be some truth to it. And they probably regret their life choices. But that's not my concern. So, with all of these problems, we have to consider all these factors. What if we're good enough? If we're good enough to stand amongst all the other struggling teens, if there's a prosperous market for it, if we truly love what we do, between other countless factors that we have to think of while being teenagers. So, maybe this is all wrong. Maybe our whole educational system is indeed faulty. And perhaps there should be some adaptation to it. Maybe we should try to do it later when we have more experience. Or maybe have a system that is more forgiving for the so undecided teenagers. So I want you today, leaving this auditorium, to think and consider the next time you're talking to a struggling teenager trying to find their choice and their career options. Just stop and think and consider. We are trying. It is just a tremendous hard task. Thank you.